stranger asks you what you do, you do not hesitate. You give them a title, a company, maybe a field, and they nod, because they understand exactly what you mean. This is how we introduce ourselves now. Not by our family. Not by where we are from. Not by what we believe. By the work we do to earn money. You wake to an alarm. You move through a morning you did not design, toward a building you do not own, to spend the best hours of your day on tasks someone else assigned. You call it a job. You have called it that your whole life. Before you are finished, you will do it for something like 80,000 hours. And none of it, not one piece, existed for almost the entire history of your species. There was no job, no boss, no wage, no Monday. In most ancient languages, there was no word that split work apart from simply living. For 300,000 years, humans woke up on this planet with no employer and no schedule. And somehow, the days were full, which leaves a strange question hanging in the air. If there was nothing to clock into, no shift to finish, no one paying them by the hour, what did ancient humans actually do all day? And why does a creature that spent almost its whole existence without a job now build its entire life around one? Hold on to that. Because the answer says something uncomfortable about the restlessness you feel on a Sunday night. Start with the closest thing we have to a window into that world. In the savanna woodland of northern Tanzania live the Hadza. Around 1,000 people who still feed themselves the old way, the men hunting with bows, the women digging tubers and gathering berries and wild honey. No farms. No shops. No stored wages. In 2010, an anthropologist named Herman Poncer traveled there with a research team. He wanted to measure something no one had measured directly before. How much energy a hunter-gatherer actually burns in a day. He used a method called doubly labeled water, the gold standard for tracking the calories a living body spends. Here is what he expected to find. The Hadza walk. A man-tracking game might cover 15 kilometers across open ground before noon. Surely, Poncer thought, a body working that hard burns far more than an office worker sitting still in a city. It did not. When he published the results in 2012, the numbers were almost identical. A Hadza forager, walking miles under the African sun, spent about the same daily energy as someone at a desk in New York. Sit with that for a moment. Their bodies were not running harder than yours. They were running differently. And here is the part that matters for our question. The Hadza are active, but they are not employed. They do not work 8-hour shifts. They forage. And when they have enough, they stop. A few hours of real effort in the cool of the morning. And then, the day opens up. Time to rest in the shade. Time to mend a tool. Time to sit and talk. That pattern is not an accident. And it is not new. In 1966, at a now famous gathering of anthropologists in Chicago called the Man-the-Hunter Symposium, a scholar named Marshall Solins stood up and turned the entire Western story of progress upside down. For centuries, we had told ourselves the same comforting tale. That prehistoric life was a desperate scramble. That our ancestors clawed at the dirt from dawn to dark just to stay alive. And that farms, then factories, then offices, slowly rescued us from all that misery. Solins looked at the actual field data and said the opposite was true. He called hunter-gatherers the original affluent society. Not because they had much, because they wanted little, and got it easily. The numbers behind him were startling. An anthropologist named Richard Borchelli had lived among the Jew/Hoansi, a sand people of the Kalahari Desert, in what is now Botswana and Namibia. He timed how long they spent getting food. The answer came out around 15 to 20 hours a week. Not a day. A week. Now, be honest about this, and Lee was. That figure covered the hunting and gathering itself. Not every hour of cracking nuts and repairing huts back at camp. Add the full weight of processing and chores, and the week gets longer. But even then, It landed below the hours a modern household pours into work and housework combined. These were not people grinding themselves to the bone. These were people with time. So what did they do with all of it? That question was answered, in part, by another anthropologist. Her name is Polly Wiesner, and she spent 40 years among those same Jew/Hoansi. She noticed something no one had thought to measure. She recorded their conversations, hundreds of them, and sorted them by the time of day. The daytime talk was practical. Where the game was. Who owed whom? Small disputes, gossip, the ordinary friction of people living close together. The plain business of staying alive. But at night, around the fire, the talk changed completely. When she published her findings in 2014, the pattern was clear. After dark, they told stories. Long ones. About hunts and quarrels and marriages and people long dead. They mapped their entire social world in the firelight. They laughed. They mourned. They imagined worlds beyond the one in front of them. Wiesner put it plainly. Stories, she wrote, were the original social media. That was the ancient day. Effort in the morning. Rest and repair in the heat. And at night, a fire, and the oldest technology our species ever had, each other. Which brings us to the strangest part of all. If this was the human pattern for hundreds of thousands of years, short bursts of work, long stretches of open time, life and labor braided together with no seam between them, then where did the job come from? The answer is shockingly recently. For most of our history, humans measured time by tasks, not by clocks. You worked until the thing was done. A job took as long as it took, the length of cooking an egg, of walking to the next valley, of a story told well. In medieval England, people measured short spans by how long it took to say a prayer. Time was something you moved through, not something that ticked against you. Then, roughly 12,000 years ago, our ancestors began to farm. Agriculture tied people to fields, to seasons, to grain that had to be guarded and stored. The days grew longer and harder, not easier. Many scholars now argue the farmer worked more than the forager ever did. But the modern job, with its fixed hours and its clock on the wall, is younger still. In 1967, the historian E.P. Thompson traced exactly when it arrived. It came with the factory, with industrial capitalism. Suddenly time was no longer yours to move through. It was money, measured in minutes, owned by an employer, punched onto a card. The clock replaced the sun. The shift replaced the task. And a way of living that had never existed before became so ordinary that today, you cannot picture a week without it. Picture 2 mornings, 300,000 years apart. In the first, a woman wakes on the African grassland. Nothing tells her to rise but the light. She eats. She talks. She walks out with a digging stick when she feels ready. By midday, she has what her family needs. The afternoon belongs to her. She has no word for weekend, because she does not need one. Every single day already holds the thing a weekend is trying to hand back to you. In the second, an alarm tears you out of sleep while it is still dark. You reach for a glowing rectangle before your feet touch the floor. You trade the best 8 hours of your day for a wage. Then come home too tired to do the things you told yourself the wage was for. And on the 7th day you rest. Briefly. And you dread the first. And this is where the ancient world collides with the life you are living right now. Your body was assembled across 300,000 years for that first morning. For task time, not clock time. For effort that ends when the task ends. Not when a manager says so. For long, unstructured stretches of hours that your nervous system reads as normal, and safe, and yours. It was never built for the second morning. And some part of you already knows that. That is the restlessness underneath a Sunday evening. Not weakness. Not laziness. It is an animal that evolved to work in bursts, being asked to run on a fixed schedule that no ancestor ever kept. It is why a holiday can take 3 days just to let you exhale. It is why what do you do can land like a question about your worth, when for most of human history, the honest answer would have been, I live. The same as you. You are not broken for wanting your time back. You are remembering something. The gap you feel between the life you have and the life that would feel right is not a flaw inside you. It is the distance between the world your body was made for and the one you happen to be born into. The job is not the natural state of the human animal. It is a recent arrangement, a few thousand years old at most, laid over a creature shaped by 100 times longer. For almost all of our story, no one asked what you did for a living because living was never something you did for anyone. It was simply the day, the morning of effort, the afternoon of rest, the fire at night, the stories, and the people you would spend your whole life beside. That older rhythm is still in you. Underneath the alarms and the inbox and the endless measured minutes, it is still quietly running. Sit with that for a moment. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. We make videos like this one about ancient human behavior, about what your body still remembers, about the gap between the world you were built for and the one you actually live in. If that is something you want more of, hit subscribe. Costs you nothing. And it tells the algorithm this kind of storytelling is worth keeping alive. See you in the next one.